down farm education here about cover crops. It seems like us that's in this business talk about lots of things and nobody understands what we're talking about. And we talk about warm season grasses. We talk about cool season grasses. We talk about warm season legumes. We talk about cool season legumes. And then we talk about brassicas, you know. So first, I guess, if you know what corn is, and if you don't know what corn is a warm season grass. Soybean is a warm season legume, you know. A cool season grass would be wheat, oats, barley, rye.
There you go.
There you go. You got her.
Now you're thinking like a...
Now, your warm season grasses then usually are, I just said bring sorghum, Sazan grass, pearl millet, those kind of things. Warm season legumes happens to be sun hemp and cowpeas. Cool season legumes are clovers, peas, other legumes that grow in the fall.
Is it too late to plant seed out of sun hemp right now for around here?
No. Not for here. No.
Sun hemp you would seed now as it's getting warm.
Yes.
So it's a warm season plant.
It's a warm season plant. And it really likes hot weather. You know, and the reason why we look at diversity in our blends is I can't predict the weather. You know, last year we thought it was going to be hot and dry. We had one day in August that got to 80 degrees or 90 degrees. The rest of the time it was in the 70s. So our warm season legumes and grasses didn't mount to much. You know, our sun hemp only got 3 foot tall. Our pearl millet only got 2 foot tall. The sand sorghum only got about 4 foot tall. But the oats that were cool season, because it was cool, was 5 foot tall and made seed. Hell, we could have combined the oats in the fall, made seed out of them, which is very unusual because usually heat suppresses those. So that's why we like diversity. If we have weather climates, we'll get success with something, you know. And a brassica is a radish, a turnip, kale, mustard, rape, canola. What else did I miss? That's pretty much it. And there are deep-rooted plants that tend, when they die, to fumigate the soil. And when they die and fumigate the soil, they usually take out the harmful cyst nematodes that's in the soil, like soybean cyst nematode, corn cyst nematode. It will actually terminate them and not hurt the beneficial cystis.
So there's a good book. You ready? Because we're throwing a bunch of stuff at you. Here's a book you can get for free. Oh, I saw him wake up now a second. You said free. I'm going, okay. Go to Sare's website, S-A-R-E, Sustainable Agriculture. I don't remember what's the, you remember?
Sustainable Agricultural Research.
Okay.
Research and education.
Thank you. There's a PDF file called, Growing Cover Crops Profitable. Free book. Now you can buy the printed version, $20, and it tells you what all these cover crops do. That's a great book to buy for 20 bucks, and you can get the PDF. You got a printer, you can download it for free. Okay? I put it on my iPhone because you can read PDF, and I go, now I don't have to write anything, print it. I got my mother of a load iPhone. That's why, look at this, that's why I got the big honking screen. So I can sit there, and there's also another web for your app there that you need to get. It's called Soil Web. You can actually, it's called Soil Web, isn't it? Yeah, it's Soil Web. Anywhere you stand, you click on there, it'll pick up that point, and it'll tell you your soil type, all the other things on that particular field. It's called Soil Web. It's a free app. Oh yeah, isn't it cool? This also makes dinner, and it's got a phaser. And well, I tell my daughter, vacuum. I call her, vacuum, yeah. Here's the thing you want to write down. Jay's got one. It's called Smart Mix Green Cover Crop Seed Calculator. Really good, so you can design your own mixes. And Jay's going to show you one. Are you going to give that and put it on your website eventually? Eventually. And Jay's designing one. Show you another one. Now, periodic table. Yeah, and he's got. There's going to be another one. We're going to. Do you have a picture of that one? Okay. There's another one called type cover crop periodic table. It shows you all the cool covers and that. You'll find that online. Now, for some of you that are real geeky like me, there's a great work by Dr. David Tillman called The Influence of Functional Diversity and Composition on Ecosystem Processes. They did some prairies. Remember I told you prairies in our forests are our template? They had graduate students going through each of those prairie plots and picking out which of the functional groups. Here's interesting. Look at the species. Look at plant biomass. Look at here, from 5 to 15 species you put in the mix in the prairies, the biomass went up. Look at the functional groups. Functional groups is broadleaf legumes. The more, I like to have at least 3 functional groups in my 8-way mix. Now, David said something very precious to you. I hope you guys caught on to it. Folks, if I go out there and do a monoculture cover crop, let's say I throw wheat, nothing comes up, David. How would you feel about that? You sucked, huh? Yeah. You're ticked. This is why I love 7, 5, 8 mixes. Something will grow under that condition. Even only 3 comes out of the 8, you're not so angry, are you? What does nature do? Does nature put all her eggs in a basket of one? Some of these prairies in a square acre can have hundreds of species. That's called redundancy builds resilience. Diversity, okay? So when we design these mixes, I want to see anywhere from, look at the biomass, from 5, 8 to 15. Once you hit above 15, it starts to plateau out. Okay? And the cost of seed. What do we want? So the first thing I'm going to ask you guys, what do you want to do on your farm? What is your goal? You don't throw cover crop seed to throw cover crop seed. It's the seed's expensive. What are your goals? First thing out of my mouth, what do you want to do? Do you want to graze it? Do you want to build organic matter? Do you want to suppress weeds? That's the first things that are going to come out of my mouth. I want pollinators. I'm going to graze. So then we design a mix accordingly. So the first thing I look at is the crop that's going to go the following year. Okay?
Or you might also look and see, do you want to improve the drainage?
Yeah.
You know, you don't use a shallow-rooted plant as a cover to improve the drainage if you got drainage problems. Use a deep-rooted plant.
And here's my cautionary statements, and then we're going to design one, because I got to place these cautionary statements. Here's the first thing you got to understand. Soil's alive. If you don't understand, I can't even help you. Okay? It's an ecosystem. Can't even talk to you. You think it's a growing medium. Cautionary statement number 2. What is your resource going? What's your goal? Cover crops are just as important as your main crop. If your cover crops are not as important as your crop, can't help you. Your cover crops are not optional. They got to be as important as your tomatoes, as everything else. You got to put that commitment. If you're not committed, I don't want you doing cover crops. You know why? You're going to go to the coffee shop and you're going to blast it. And you're going to condemn it. Don't do that. I'd rather you continue to buy the compost, your compost teas, and continue to do what you do. That's how brutal I get when it comes to the cover crops. Don't do any half-hearted attempts. Yes, sir.
Back at what you're trying to do, a big one for us all the time is have the cover crop be done when we need it to be.
Absolutely.
That's a real important one.
And sometimes what I'll do is if I got sweet corn, Dave's starting to cut his varieties of his crops down. Give yourself some room. Sometimes we're growing 120-day corn while we should be growing 100-day corn. Give yourself room. What we do is we back ourselves into a corner and then you don't have space. You don't have space for climate in the front and you don't have space for the back. Cut down your variety sizes, day lengths. Give your time for your cover crops. You don't want bare ground going into the season. Cover crops is not the magic bullet. Systems thinking. Cover crops are tools. No-till's a tool. Tool, tool, tool. They're never the goal. Understanding is the goal. Okay? Be a committed student. If you're not committed, again, I'll say it again, don't do this. You're just going to blast it. You got to be a student. I'm taking you to a higher level of management. Cover crops require more management.
Great to find a mentor.
Yes.
Too.
Oh.
Great to find a mentor. You know, could be your neighbor, It could be me, it could be Gabe Brown, whatever.
Phone.
And use the phone and find out where you want to be and who you want to be with. And, you know, it's neat to start a little group in a county.
This place right here is a beacon.
Yes.
Right here is where is the school we're going to learn. Here's what another number 6. Expect failure. My goodness, you farm. Expectations are everything. Some of you will go out there, well, Rains, and Dave and Jay said the magic bullet is covers. No, I want you to expect failure. You're going to fail, aren't you, Dave?
Yeah.
Number 7, get organized. Be very organized. These two are very organized. I've been in their operation. They got the planter ready. They got the no-till drill ready as they're harvesting soybean. They got the no-till planter coming right behind them. You got to have everything planned in the system. A lot of times we fail. It's our mindset, and we're disorganized, and we're not planning way ahead. Okay? Get organized, requires management, be patient, give us 2 or 3 years, and we'll change the system around. Do not do this alone. Don't do this alone. You got mentors. Help each other. Like Dave said, we got community. Do this together. You know what we're starting to do in Kansas? When we start doing this soil health, we have breakfast together. Well, Pat, what we'll do is some of our district conservationists get with our farmers, and they'll have breakfast soil health meetings. And they'll talk about, okay, how can we do better? How can we have a breakfast? In North Dakota, you know what they'll do is shop talks. We'll go and we'll talk, and in the winter, we'll have shop talks where we'll talk about how we can improve soil health as a community. You don't have to do this by yourself. Finally, incorporate diversity in your operation, cover crops, crop rotations, animals. When you keep doing that and stacking operations, then you bring economic and ecological resilience. Diversify, diversify, diversify. If you grow nothing but tomatoes, you put yourself at the mercy at the market. Now, if you have animals, you have livestock, you have tomatoes, you have squash, you have all of this, you're resilient. Okay? And now we're ready for let's go into the mix, design mix. It's right, go on the bottom here, and then you got your calculator. There we go. There we go. There we go. And just pull it up inside there. Drag it. Yeah, it's a Mac. It's a Mac. He's a PC guy, but we still love each other, man. We work.
You can actually click with one finger and drag with the other on the same pad.
Yeah, and I'm a slow Mac guy. He's the quick one. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're going to show you the calculator that he made, and then you can use. Let's bring it over. Can you bring it up? Can you make it bigger? Yeah, make it bigger here. Just go right here. There we go.
And remember, I guess the biggest key on all this cover crop things is if you're using nitrogen fixing cover crop plants, make sure that your seed distributor has the right bacteria for those plants.
Good point.
If you pick up cowpeas, for example, that grow really well in the heat, they don't take soybean inoculant. They use peanut
I
inoculant.
think it's the.
You know, so if the guy throws 10 bags of something in your truck and you ask him where the inoculant is and he gives you soybean inoculant, the best thing you can do is ask him to take them 10 bags out of your truck and leave, because you're just wasting your time. Because without bacteria, it's not going to set nodulation, you're not going to build the soil, and you're not going to build for nitrogen. Just keep in mind you don't want to spend more for the cover crop than you can reduce the nutrients or get benefit from yield. You know, in some cases, like this research farm, they're going to have lots of money in this field, but in 2 years, they're going to see how much they've changed it and how loose it's going to be and not need any nutrients for a good many years, you know. I'm a greedy fellow. I would be out there, I almost want to go steal a neighbor's corn planter down the road here. He's making hay somewhere, and go show you how to plant corn, you know. But their goal is to have another year of cover to really jumpstart the soil system, you know.
Could you say it again about the nitrogen? nitrogen?
The
Inoculum.
nitrogen, the bacteria you need to put on your legumes
Okay.
are different.
Yeah, so if you have crimson clover, has a different inoculum, peas have a different inoculum. A good certified seed dealer will already inoculate for you, or you ask him to inoculate, okay?
Okay.
It's really important you got the right inoculum,
Right.
because if you don't, you're not going to get the nodulation. Now, remember I told you I got 3 functional groups. If I have about an 8-way mix, I like to have at least 3 legumes in there.
Yep.
I want the legume to feed the rest of the mix.
Yep.
I do not want to use any fertilizer inputs. If I'm asking you to spend $35 in seed, now you're going to spend another $25, $40 an acre for fertilizer or some. I'm not going to do that. It's not cost effective. Let the legumes do their business, okay? So I like to keep a good margin, $40, $50, unless you have a really high cost crop like tomatoes, then $70, $80 an acre for cover crop seed is not unreasonable. Ray Steyer spends about $75 an acre for his cover crop seed, but he buys no chemical nitrogen, very little herbicides, little fuel, so it works out really nice economically. Okay, now, go ahead, Jay, you want to? Sure, go ahead, absolutely.
Small growers around here, if you don't have an easy source, there's one inoculum from Seven Springs Farm that has a really wide range of plants. It's got more different ones that it does the most. Make sure you ask them to look at it and make sure it covers what you're using, but it's probably the best for general use.
Okay, now, Jay's going to explain this calculator that he's going through.
All right, this is similar to what Ray introduced before, the Smart Mix calculator, and I kind of based this design on some of that. I use it in my business when guys come in. We do some custom mixing for them because it allows me to look at basically the combinations that we're looking at. And the things we want to look at is that balance based on the goals that we have, whether it's for grazing or adding nitrogen, depending on the types of crops that you have in place, adding pollinators and things of that. So because of the study, I'm very familiar with that and have a good idea based on what people's ideas for inputs are. So we were going to work on a summer mix for this. So
Yeah, we can work on it. Where's Meredith?
that's all right.
Okay, so let's start on that summer mix that we're going to plan. You're going to see a beautiful winter mix that we're all going to walk out there in a little while.
And one of the things that I look at too is for the rate of coverage. So we figure when we're putting a mix together, we want to have between 30 and 50 seeds per square foot.
Yep.
So we're talking from a gardener's or small plot standpoint, we can understand that. And you can see in the calculator I got that where it calculates seeds per square foot. The other thing we can look at is the amount of biomass. Now this is a calculation based on that Managing Cover Crops book that estimates height of growth at maturity. So we keep that in mind if it grows to full season from that standpoint. I could actually calculate nitrogen based on that too, but it's a real iffy number.
And let me share something with you. Look, the resource goal of this farm has been used heavy fungicides, insecticides, all the sides, right?
No cover crop.
No cover crop. The soil is absolutely had been nuked. Their main goal, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, is to bring soil restoration. 2 seasons of cover crops, and then going to start it into their rotation, correct?
Yeah, and it's always going to be soil quality first.
Yes.
We understand that's the path.
Their goal is to do it from a soil health perspective. So we already have a 5 to 7 8-way mix. They're going to go and plant a summer mix into the cool season mix. Okay? So what we want out of this mix is we want to build a lot of carbon, and it's going to have to deal with the heat, and we want to bring soil restoration. So that mix is going to require that. So what's one of the things you would think about right off the top of the bat? I want 3 legumes. What would you say for summer mixes, at least, at the minimum?
Cowpeas,
Let's do some cowpea,
sun hemp,
sun hemp. How about a little bit of soybean? Do you think soybean? would be-
Soybean.
Soybean's cheap, fairly cheap.
yeah.
So he's going to put, we're going to, huh?
Those two must know each other.
Oh, yeah, they're dad and son.
I know, everything you said.
He keeps him in check.
Check, yeah, right.
Or vice versa, I don't know. Okay, so we got 3 legumes at the minimum. Why do we like sun hemp?
Warm season.
It's a warm season. It creates huge amounts of biomass. I want it to feed the heavy carbon mix that we're going to put in there. It can tolerate the heat. Okay, so we're building organic matter. So how do we build organic matter? It's okay. So Let's put some, I want something that's kind of a little drought resistant. Let's put some Milo out there. Some grain sorghum. What do you think about that, Jay?
The sorghum Sudan grass.
Sudan grass? We can put them there. I like that. What?
Pearl millet
Pearl millet.
and regular Sudan grass.
Yeah, we can do that. And what else can we put? Oh, yeah, let's put some sunflower. That's beautiful. Who said sunflower?
I did.
You're a beautiful man. I love it.
I'm reading it out of his little description.
Yeah, let's put some. You cheated. I love that. Yeah.
Come on, you're a student, right?
But I love, let's help the pollinators while we're out there. There's nothing wrong with that.
What about that one that?
Which one do you, which one?
Forage.
You want to forage?
Forage.
Borage, what's that? I don't know all of them.
No, more.
It's a farmscaping plant. It's a bioaccumulator. It's related to a Phacelia.
Ooh, is it summer? Can it handle the summer?
Summer. I don't know how well it compete in that cover crop though.
But it's okay because what do we want from this cover? Ecological memory. We want the architecture, we want to prime the biology, and we want a lot of lignified material. I want hemicellulose, all these lignified, strong carbonaceous material out there. So that's going to be, when we have that biomass, if I build 10 to 12,000 pounds of biomass, only 35% is going to go into organic matter. What happened to the other 60-some percent? Glass? What happened to it? Went off of CO2. 8% feeds the microbes. 35% actually goes to humic and non-humic to build organic matter. The rest of it goes off to CO2. Okay? So where you're going to build a lot of organic matter is through the carbon pathway, through the root. Okay? So read it out, so what we have so far. We have sun hemp, we have cowpea, we have soybean, we have sorghum Sudan, pearl millet, Sudan grass, and let's put some sunflower in that. He's got sunflower. You see how he's got it? Now look at the calculations, what it does right off the top of the bat. Okay, notice, do you have the full rate? On the calculator, that is the full rate. And then now what he does in his calculator, it'll show you what the full rate is, okay? The other one does too. We don't want to use the full rate. Why not? We're growing a mix. We want to let everything manifest itself and be able to be part of that mix. So what you're going to do is, it's as much as art, Pat, as it is a science. This is art. Farming is an art too. But we're trying to bring as much science into it, okay? And experience. Do not dismiss your experience. Okay.
One rule of thumb that you could use when you're making a mix is you take the number of ingredients and you divide your full rate by that number as a starting point.
Yes. Did you guys get that? So if I have 7-way mix, you're going to divide it 7 ways. The full rate. Yes, Pat?
I would always put a small amount of buckwheat in just for the biodiversity, just for the insects.
Beautiful. I have no problem with that. Absolutely. I love buckwheat. The only thing you got to remember, if buckwheat germinates on you over there, it's going to be a seed. It's going to be it can become a weed issue. But I think again, I think we'll be fine. Okay, so we got sunflowers, we got the buckwheat. Anything else, Pat? Rocco, anything you want? Anybody else have an idea they want to put out there? Alfalfa is a cool season. It's a cool season.
And a perennial, so it's difficult to terminate.
Yeah. I don't want to till that ground if I don't have to. Because to terminate it, these guys are organic. So a lot of these annuals, we can either terminate it. Alfalfa's hard to terminate. Okay, because it's got a massive taproot. Be careful with your perennials. But I love alfalfa though. Good, cool season.
What about the Phacelia?
Phacelia is a cool season.
It's a cool season, and if planted now will not emerge well. So it would be hard seeded and wouldn't come up until the winter. So that's generally what you're going to see. You want to plant Phacelia in September or in March to get the benefit from that standpoint.
Okay, now let's go ahead and do a seeding rate. Let's try that out.
So I'm going to add some numbers based on my experience and preference of what I like to see.
And the cost of seed. We take that into consideration all the time too. We don't want it to be too expensive. You know why? You guys won't do it. It's economics too. Notice how he did from the 20, he went to 5 pounds sun hemp. Regular rate for cowpeas at a monoculture rate is 50, put 10. Soybean, regular is 50, put 12. Sudan grass is 5. Look at the seed, look at the number of seeds. Do you know why he went to only 5 pounds? Look how many seeds in a pound. 4, is that 400,000?
Yes.
400,000 seeds. Remember, do you guys remember the magic number we want per square foot?
30 to 50.
Oh, you guys are such incredible students. Good for you, yes.
When do you mow it? When do you transition into fall? I don't understand if you let it grow all season, it reaches peak biomass.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it, you know, and like out here this afternoon, I mean, the peas are flowering, but the veg isn't quite there. Is it a...
Good question. You see what Rocco's asking?
Is it whoever goes to seed first?
Excellent question. If I got cereal rye, I personally watch cereal rye if it's in my mix. Do you know why I watch? If like my mix in my garden, I got crimson clover, I got some vetch, I got cereal rye, I have some 2 or 3 other mixes. You know what I focus on? I focus, me personally, on my cereal rye. Why do I focus on my cereal rye? I want to roll it, and I know when cereal rye is ready to terminate, at that dough stage and all those little pollination, I focus strictly on the cereal rye. I'm going to get my nodulation what I get, but I don't worry, I don't stress about that. See, I'm not like a bunch of people that stress, well, I don't get enough. No. Build the biology, we'll get the nitrogen. Let me give you an example. Nematodes eating bacteria through predation, you can get anywhere from 17 to 116 pounds of N. So I focus on the cereal rye. Now, if you want max nitrogen, but you don't have cereal rye, you might want to focus on the vetch. Depends what species and what your goals are going to do. That's what it comes down to. So my goal, when I want to roll and cereal rye is the thing I'm going to watch, I watch that first. Because that's what I care about. Because it has, go ahead.
What's the goal for your garden?
My goal is I want great weed suppression. I want good weed suppression. I want to build organic matter, but I want great weed. What's our biggest bane for all farmers, or especially organic? The weeds. So if I don't have a good cereal rye out there suppressing the weeds, it's going to eat my lunch. And I'm lazy. I do not want to be out there weeding. So it's all the function of what your goals are. So you watch that indicator species, and then you terminate it by then. Because what we're going to do is we're going to have that summer mix, and they're going to come in with another cool season mix. Now we're going to have to design a cool season for your following crop. What is going to be your following crop in the spring? Pat?
Vary. We're going to do tomatoes and sweet corn for sure, squash, peppers. It's going to be mixed vegetables, basically.
So what's a common thing that you would do if it's going to, we know it's going to be tomatoes and vegetables?
Lots of legumes.
Lots of legumes, and what else? Cereal rye. Because I want weed suppression. Because the tomatoes are going to love the cereal rye. What else did you talk about?
Sweet corn, peppers.
The peppers, all of those grow wonderful under cereal rye. Would you agree with that? Or no?
Yeah.
I
keep the rye rates reasonably low.
Yes, because you're going to do a mix.
You're going to do a mix.
So I don't want to see that over 35 pounds to the acre. Do you agree with that, boss?
Yeah.
So it goes for nitrogen in the rye and the grain for weed suppression.
Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
And what Ron Morris does, have you ever looked at that, is he plants it's probably more work than you want to do, but he actually plants the legumes in the actual planting zone and has the grains on the edges.
Yes, you can do that.
You can do that. But you can do the fundamental mix, roll it down, you can plant into it, you can roll it down, and then you can come back and seed that. There's nothing wrong with that. Nobody says that you can't come back during the summer and put a legume right in there. But the thing is, I want to get great weed suppression because you're organic. And if we can reduce the tillage as much as possible, that's what we want to do. And we want something that's easily terminated with mechanical rolling, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Totally. My whole goal is to reduce your tillage, build your soil biology. So this summer mix is going to be wonderful. Then we have to design a winter mix for you to come into your crop. Okay?
Yeah, one question.
Yeah.
I know you might have mentioned it because I had to go away for a little bit, but I know we're going to do it. We already talked about it. But what about making sure you got mycorrhizae out there? Should you inoculate the seed at least once with mycorrhizae?
Yeah, here's the thing. I have a great, there's a guy called Soil Smarts. He does probably one of the best seed inoculums. That soil you're going to see out there is absolutely nuked. I think we can do it with a mix, but for 25 bucks an acre, only one treatment, it may be worth to go do that mycorrhizal knock. Yeah, that'll be a good one. Mark, you had a question?
Yeah, I did. So you were advocating using a lot of cereal rye for weed suppression.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, or all of your thoughts, on how that affects your nitrogen for the cash crop?
Good question. You see, here's the kicker. When you incorporate the cover crop, this is very important. There's a difference between laid on the surface and incorporated. If you incorporate it, you're going to tie up all the nitrogen in your system, because the microbes, what you've done now is you increase the surface area, you incorporated all the vegetation, you're going to tie up nitrogen, and you're going to have problems with the tomatoes, you're going to have nitrogen deficiencies. Let's make it very clear. Microbes are the first feeders. They have done radioisotope studies, and they follow N15 all the way through, and it's microbes get the first nitrogen. They did chemical fertilizer display, and they threw chemical fertilizer out there. Only 40% of the chemical nitrogen ever reached the plant. What happened to the other 60%? They went to the microbes, they went into the complex pools. My point is, microbes are first feeders. So if you incorporate that cover crop, you're going to tie up nitrogen. With this system, you're laid on top of the surface. You're not incorporating it. So the regime changes. It's going to be attacked mostly by fungus, saprophytic fungus on top of the surface. So you're not going to rob the nitrogen that you think you're going to rob if you lay it on top of the surface versus incorporate it. If you incorporate it, you're going to tie up all kinds of nitrogen. But when you roll it, that's a non-issue. Okay? Everybody with me?
There's another aspect to that is that it's not a monoculture of rye,
Yes.
which if allowed to head out will have some nitrogen deficiency because it's holding it, it's bound tight. Now that we're adding a succulent legume in the cool season mix, that aids the decomposition of the cereal, whether it's rye or barley or anything, and makes that more available or more readily available to the plant throughout the season. So that's again the purpose for doing the mix, is to alleviate that the nitrogen deficiency issue from the cereal.
So are you thinking that, like, if you have enough legume or a little bit of rye, like that ratio is right, you won't need to supplement with nitrogen?
Right.
But here's what I'll note, and let me put a caveat to that, Mark. That soil is so degraded, I wouldn't mind right by the tomato plants, go ahead and put some fish oil and some other stuff in there to supplement some nitrogen, because it's degraded. That is not a functioning cycling soil. So I would not be afraid to put some compost teas, put some fish oils right by the tomato plants. It won't hurt you a bit, okay? Because I'm telling you, that soil is very degraded. We'll show you how it's been absolutely nuked for years. Good question, Mark, because they got to understand that. Here's another thing. Everybody write this down. That wants to learn about this, you need to buy the book called The Nature and Properties of Soils, the 13th edition and above. Don't buy the 12th, don't buy the 10th, do not buy the 11th, 13th and above. And I want you to read the carbon and nitrogen chapter of that is a basic sophomore soils class. You need to understand carbon and nitrogen ratios or you're going to screw things up. You're going to hurt yourself. Buy that book and go to Amazon and get it for $30, $40 and go to eBay. Some sucker sold that book. You don't sell that book. You don't sell that book. That's your Bible of soils. You need to have that. There's a lot of other books. If you post on the website, I'll post all my reading literature that you need to read, and so ecology and all that, so you become a student. You need to understand carbon and nitrogen ratios, or you're going to hurt yourself, or you're going to cut your fingers off. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in the case of this, the summer mix chart, if we look at the mix fraction is the other part that we look at. And again, I like to have about 50% of the mix fraction being the legume in this case. And we split the rest up between our grass and the broadleaf, which you consider a grass. You know, in some cases, I just consider it a broadleaf, so we add diversity that way. And the other way is to balance in as far as seed count, are things that you would consider when you're building the mix here in this case. But a 50% legume mix is very normal and a good place to start and look at where you want to build your mix from. So it's always interesting to look at the different companies that are offering their prescription seed mixes, like we at Walnut Creek Seeds, what we have, and you can look at what those combinations are and get a feel from that. So the prescription mixes are indeed a starting point where we recommend you start. You get a chance to see what the different species are, how to manage them, and what kind of performance you get, and then you can decide how you want to change those things or use them differently. So that's the key part, is to look at how you use those in your
And
management.
Jay's already got if you don't want to do all this thought process, just say, I want a summer mix. Call Jay. They have a summer mix. If I have a cool season mix, he's already got a cool season mix. But it's better that you think these things out so you know what your crop rotations are going to be. If I'm going to go to corn the following year, it's a heavy nitrogen feeder. So I'm going to have more nitrogen in my mixes, but I'm still going to have cereal rye in there. You see where we're going with that?
Or tomatoes or gorse.
Tomatoes, yes.
As far as that. Then another place on the web to look for is the Midwest Cover Crops Council. The Midwest Cover Crops Council, they have a cover crop calculator also that really incorporates your region and what your goals are. So it doesn't give you specific mixes, but says that here are plant species that work well based on when you are planting and what your goals are, what type of crop you're growing and stuff. So the limitation there is that it only has 3 component mixes, but it will give you an idea what to look at. And it's a starting point. All these things are building blocks that we build our knowledge and experience on and go from there. But the thing to keep in mind that we point out is some diversity. And as we showed through experimentation, you want to have 3 different types, right? A legume, a grass or grain, and a broadleaf or brassica. You know, brassicas don't do well in the summer, that's why it's not in the summer mix. But if you have something in cool season, a brassica is a great way to add some diversity there. And then to try to get the number of those different things in that 5 to 8 range. There are other benefits to go higher, and if you're looking to get specific, once you learn what these different cover crops do for you, you'll be more comfortable going into those higher numbers. It's just that in the front, you may not see the benefit with the more complex mixes from that standpoint. But so once you look for what the benefits they are, then you can add them in.
Now, if Rocco loves the animals, I do too, my mix would change. If I'm summer grazing, it changes. Okay, so it depends on your goals. Any questions before we go out there in the field? Jay, do we bring anything more up here before? Okay, we're going to save that mix, and we're going to talk about, okay, was it like drinking water through a fire hose? As you're going, Okay, question, yes?
How important is your soil test to determine the type of mixes that you put?
Oh, you are slick. You know what, let me tell you something. And I didn't want to go into this. I got a new soil test by ARS USDA that I use to help design my mixes. I'm going to come back. I think we overwhelmed you. I'll come back and we'll do another class and we'll focus we'll learn how to use the Haney test, go out in the field, learn how to read it and interpret, and I'll come back, okay?
You can't. You got to tell us now.
You got 20 minutes?
We don't. We have a very tight schedule.
Well, but I'll come back. I promise to come back and I'll show you the new test. We are saving, what do you think of that test?
Great.
Awesome. We have saved some of my producers, one soil test saved him $60,000 on nitrogen fertility. Our no-tills, this soil test works very well in systems that are dynamic equilibrium. Pastures, no-till, forests. They also work very good in conventional. The regular university soil test works very well for destroyed soil systems, but do not work very good for dynamic equilibrium systems, okay? So this soil test brings up the biology and it brings up the water-soluble carbon. If I know how much water-soluble carbon, I know how much food. If I know how much food, I know how much nitrogen they're going to produce.
What's the name of the test?
It's called the Haney test. Here's where I would take it. Woods End Laboratory. Write it down. Woods End Laboratory in Maine. We've already been, NRCS has already put money into this test. We are excited. We have taken this all over the country. It's called Woods End Laboratory. You need to ask for the Haney test. It gives you fertility. It gives you aggregate stability. It gives you all kinds of parameters. If you need help, we'll help you interpret it.
Okay, and I want to make an addendum.
Yes, Pat.
If we actually get back and eat dinner quickly and stuff, there could be up to a half an hour after dinner when we could do that.
I can do 30 minutes of that, and I can give you a good foothold and then we can move on there. How's that?
Just gotta move fast from one place to another and not dilly-dally and be orderly about eating.
Yeah, but I know you're going to get excited about the covers. I know we're going to...
Yeah, I know so too.
Okay, let's get out in the field. You guys need to get out in the field. I can see it in your face.
Yes, I get
It's a big important thing to understand. is
see,
the
and that's the
cover crop needs
problem
to be
is
a
that
function
we
of what
reduced
you
it to what
want.
chemistry said.
Exactly.
That's the big thing.
Doesn't work that way.
Read suppression.
But it's exciting that you guys are picking up the right context. Who's
I'm
gonna?
not the operator.
Am I driving?
Yeah, you go ahead and let's take him out. Are you gonna roll it?
Yeah.
Let's go. Which are you gonna roll? Yeah, let's go to this side, guys. Come over here.
I'll meet you all there.
Well, let's meet us over here.
Saturday, if you're gonna back up, please.
Oh,
Come over here.
Fast. Fast.
Oh, that's okay.
So are we still going to the other farm and we're just doing this right now?
We're gonna do this, and then we're gonna go to the other farm.
Okay.
But I want to show them.
Well, I don't have a mic for you, so you have to talk at me. You can't.
I got your mic right here.
No, I don't have that. I don't have a mic.
Okay, I'll speak out loud.
Oh, there she is.
There, hold
Come on.
I don't want to step on the road.
There you go.
Okay, class, get over here. I'll just real quick.
Like, don't run off without doing it.
I'll give you a little time. Okay, I'm going to show you guys. I want to show you something, and I want you to... Okay, everybody gather here. I'm going to show you something. I want you to see how you're going to start being an observer. This right here, you guys ready? Let me give you some time. This is going to be the most powerful instrument you guys use, okay? And I'm going to show you how to start identifying what's going on in your system. Ready? Okay. Everybody close? Okay, here, this is the cover crop mix. When I walk on any farm, I don't care if it's organic, no-till, conventional, pasture, forest, I want to see all these spheres present in the soil, okay? Now, every good, healthy, natural ecosystem, soil ecosystem, will have all these spheres present. I want to see every one of them present. The first one is, you get it close, come and see, because I want you to start learning how to do this. Okay, you see those broken up pieces right here in this little duff layer of broken up pieces of residue? That is called the detritus sphere. Soil ecologists call it the detritus sphere. What that means is these unrecognizable pieces becomes that skin. That skin is very critical. In that skin layer, you have a lot of microfauna, saprophytic fungus, you got all these Cumbalimbula, you have all these grinders, mixers. This is critical. When you pull this back, I'm going to show you, when you pull that layer back, you'll see aggregation. When you don't have that detritus sphere, you will get crusting. You will get crusting. So it regulates temperature, protects from rain impact, it feeds the biology, and as it's broken down, it goes through a catabolic process and leaks all these materials into the soil ecosystem and feeds it. Okay, so I need that. If you don't have that, I know what you're doing. You're doing way too much tillage. You're tilling the snot out of that ground and you're burying it. I don't want that much tillage going on there. So I watch that. You'll see this in the pasture. You go to that woodlock, it will have a detritus sphere. Prairie will have it present. A pasture will have it present. All of it will be there. In a system that's doing way too much tillage, that will not be present. Now look at here. You see this cottage cheese area? Look at this. Everybody, can you see that? See those big aggregates? That's called the aggregate. I want to see huge amounts of that cottage cheese present. If I don't see it present, you're tilling a lot. Or you're overgrazing. In a pasture that's overgrazed, you will not see as much aggregation because it takes huge amounts of energy for the fungus, the bacteria, and all these organisms to create that aggregation. Inside the aggregate, look how it's dangling. See that? My cottage cheese is the porous sphere. I got cottage cheese, I got pores, Then I got the rhizosphere. This is, I got to see lots and lots of roots. This is the conduit for liquid sun to feed the system. No conduit, no aggregation, nothing. I got to see present roots all the time. So if I go out there, I want to see this present. So I want to see detritus, cottage cheese, aggregate. I got to see a living root. And the last one, the drillosphere. I didn't make that up. It's called the worm sphere. Drillosphere in the Greek means worm. That passage of that earthworm is laden with bacteria and laden with phosphorus and nitrogen. Huge plethora of bacteria, and you'll see this beautiful glazing. I want to see 4 to 5 earthworms per shovelful during the spring. That means I got 850 to 1.5 million earthworms per acre. That means they'll move 18 tons of soil in a year. And I don't have to put diesel, they don't complain, and they don't whine.
They don't break down.
They don't break down. And here's another thing. If you have that many earthworms, they will completely regenerate your whole farm in the upper 6 inches after 27 years and actually purge it of E. coli and salmonella. Earthworms are phenomenal. Those are keystone organisms. So you take this in the early spring. So in the summer, if you take the earthworms, they might go down deeper. So if you're going to check, do it in the spring. Do it consistently. Everybody with me? So what do I want to see? Kenny, right?
Kimberly.
Kimberly. So Kim, name one of the spheres I want to see.
The Drillosphere.
Yeah, the last one. Reagan, name another one. I look at the detritus sphere. The residue sphere. Cottage cheese is what, Wade?
A gratosphere.
And inside the aggregates, Mark, is the porous sphere. All of them present, okay? I want to see them all present. I want to see soils like this. That's what I want to see. Every shovelful. Now, let's look at what happens over here in this demonstration. Dave, come up here and you want to... Dave's going to talk about this. Why you want to do what you do here at this time. Now, this is beautiful. Look at the aggregation over here on this system by the cover crops doing that. That's what I want to see. Now, Dave's going to explain why you don't want to plant into this versus you want to plant into this. Dave, it's yours.
Okay, what we have here, they used a flail mower, and it's starting to get crispy, you know. But this morning it was real dewy. So if you were to try to plant something in here, it would actually pinch this residue in the soil, and then the air would get around the seeds and it wouldn't grow. Plus the fact is we got this mulched. If it does rain before they get it planted, it'll probably be 2-3 weeks too wet to try to get anything done.
This is a real wet farm too.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. It will actually pinch this mowed residue in the soil.
Because he's using a machine. Right?
A machine.
So ultimately, the thing,
right.
and the stuff gets pulled in with it gets pinched into it.
So if we use the roller, which you'll do here in just a second, anytime they're ready.
Okay, but before you do that, let me show you some things before we do that. I want you to sit behind here. Look, everybody here. What do you guys notice on this surface? Right here, you're going to have crusting. This will have crusting. Now walk over here. Everybody come in here. Get on your knees. Come here. Everybody, I want you to observe this. Come in here and open this up.
Yeah.
Guess what? No crusting. You'll have aggregation.
Yeah.
You see right here? Look at that. Look how cool. There will be no crusting. That ground over there, anywhere there's bare ground, you will have crusting.
The ground, see how cool it is.
Look how cool it is. Come on, get your fingers in here. Look how cool that is, and look how soft it is. Look how you run your fingernails, and it doesn't hurt. These covers do that.
Move over beside the onions and touch that soil there and see the difference.
Touch the temperature there. Now look at here. See how cool it is? And you're going to plant right into that.
Well,
And
we got a real bad nutsedge problem, and it's just getting to grow here, where it wouldn't get to grow there.
yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Pat. And look at here. Same thing. So I want to see green armor or brown armor. but I never want to see bare ground. That's brutal.
And so what we've been doing, because we didn't have the roller till just now, and it was definitely just people being used to what they were doing, just got flail mode instead. We're going to roll anymore. Is we come back and we mulch this pretty quickly. So we don't have bare ground. You know, get the mulch pretty fast. We always do. But it's going to be way less work to lay the mulch down and plant through it rather than have to come back and haul it in. It takes a lot of time to mulch.
Great. Any comments?
No.
Any other one? So you don't want this. Again, you want to be planting into something like this. This is where we call it green planting. Soil softer, it's cooler. There's a great book called by Dr. Geiger. I'm going to save you the pain. 405 pages of intense calculus and soil temperatures. He said the best way to regulate soil temperature and moisture, a living plant.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Saved you 500 pages. Okay?
Run the roller.
Okay, now go ahead and run the roller. And then you guys can videotape that. So you don't want this because the planter's going to have problems with it.
So how soon after rolling it should it be planted? Within a day or two?
Oh, right away.
Right away.
Yeah, yes, 1 or 2 days. You either want it very tender or very brittle. Now he's going to have to wait until it's brittle. And it's going to get without protein.
Seed into it. But couldn't you just do that anyway to break it down?
No, it's not decent.
Instead of just or to try to make it stop going through.
I want that to be heavy.
We gotta get more. Yeah.
Mine is an old, you saw I used my daughter's car. Well, that's right. Did you get a haircut and nobody finished it? Stand on top of this, and guess what? Those biotic glues as cementing agents keep the soil.
So a fun thing to see that we saw, we used this in the greenhouse, and after we finished, we watched these toads like working their way up out of the cover crop, right? Shaking their heads like, what the heck just happened? And hopping away. I've got a video of them hopping away. Yeah. So that tells you how little compaction we just had. Wow. You know? Yeah. 3 toads came out of the cover crop.
One more?
Yeah.
That's how they come up with the spacing on the camera.
Thank you. Because I always like to, I work with a lot of small producers. I like to see that.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know why it's inside.
Yeah.
Ray, at home, you know, for like a smaller garden, we do a cover crop like this. We can lay it down, whatever.
Yeah.
If you got to use a board or whatever.
Absolutely.
Wait,
4 by 4.
I want to hear that because that's what Dave said. I don't understand.
You can take a 4x4, make it 3 foot wide.
Yeah.
Put 2 rubber or bungee cords on it and handles, and you step on it, step back,
keep working your way
Just
down.
keep working the way
And
down.
I
you
saw
could just
him
go
down
in one
with the
time and
trowel
use the heavy
tip, put it in
chain.
place.
Heavy chain.
Yeah, something like to make
Or invite your relatives and say, look,
Walk
I have
on
a
this.
keg of beer over there on the
Yeah,
other end,
he's right here.
and let them run back and forth, and then have human trampoline.
The beer's at one side and the
You
chips are on
got
the
it,
other.
you got it. And you run, then you use human
Get the
impact.
kids a roll, you know.
And you got it.
Excellent idea.
Just be
Okay.
creative.
Okay, and so compaction is
And
not
this
an
is
issue.
enough to terminate this cover crop.
It's got to be very heavy. Now,
It's probably not heavy enough yet.
that's
but
not,
yeah.
humans are not heavy enough, but just joking around, notice how I used my daughter's car? That was enough, but here's the key. We have enough vetch to keep the rye laying down. That's why I watched the rye. When the rye is at the dough stage and all this thing's pollinating, it's ready to roll.
Oh, it's in the greenhouse. Look at it.
Yeah, we'll go watch in the
will show you.
greenhouse.
We
Yeah,
just-
let's go
we
show that.
rolled in there, but we couldn't get the
Say it
grill
again.
in.
It's
When this is starting to get this
Yeah.
green pollen
Yeah.
is starting to come off, it's ready.
Yeah, so we can show people in there because
and
it's
so
ready in
that
there.
is, like you said, the indicator.
That's my indicator
plant. Got it.
species that I'm watching.
Got it.
Because that's going to be my weed suppressant. So I want 30,
That's what I
35
need.
pounds to the acre as my weed suppressant, and then put my mix in there.
So let's go look at that and then head to the other place, okay?
Then we'll go to the other place.
No.
So, okay, a word about getting to the other place, okay?
He's going to tell you what the management was here.
Ready to go, Marshall.
Okay, so we've watched this farm a long time. I farmed conventionally up here a long time prior to coming to work with Live and Web. This farm was conventional tomatoes on raised beds on plastic, conventional in every meaning of the word. Lot of chemical use out here weekly, whether it was needed or not. When we purchased this place, the folks that were leasing, they were a little sore and they left all their rows. They pulled their plastic and stakes, but they left all their rows. So what we had were just an ungodly amount of rows on 6-foot spacing, just sitting there looking at us, holding water every time it rained. Weeds were 6 foot tall or more, and we decided that we obviously had to prep it down to a flat surface. So we came in with about a 12-foot bog disc and disked everything down and got it smoothed out. And then we came back with a 20-foot finished disc and really tried to smooth it out as best we could. From there, we drilled directly using an 8-foot no-till drill, planting the diverse species that you see here. And that's really where we are as of right now. That's about
This is 1 year's growth?
This is 1 year's first cover crop.
This was planted, we did this in early October. We got it established. Probably 6 inches prior to winter. And it survived obviously well through the winter and just really started taking off as we got into spring.
And what's your intention now after you roll it?
Well, what we're going to do right now is we're going to plant it with a summer species cover crop, and we're still collecting the equipment that we want to use to push forward with vegetable production. We also have intentions of grazing animals and doing a number of different things, just on a succession.
Just to do soil building and
right, just on a succession. So this obviously would be very expensive for someone that was just trying to start out. They would be not using their property initially, but it's the investment that we have to make to get the ground where we need it to be to produce organically.
Think about what they're doing. They're really saving money in the long run, because in 2 years of these mixes, it's going to make a huge change and get them turned around. If they start it with a conventional system, they're going to be in that vicious cycle and never get a chance to repair. So we're doing bioremediation here, and we're using the covers and the biology to do that. And we're going to show you after he rolls. We're going to dig. We're already seeing aggregation, and guess what we saw, folks? An earthworm. We saw one earthworm. That gives us hope. So that was encouraging.
Yeah, this stuff has been worked, and I'm talking disked and plowed, and just standard conventional practice, but it never was cover cropped. They're no soil tested, run through and and instead of doing any soil testing or anything, just try to put about a ton of lime per acre every year and let it go. Never did anything to really try to improve the soil. These guys, their motto, how they treated the stuff was, if we're not doing as well as we were last year, we just add more fertilizer.
How did you get? You didn't amend this, obviously, right? You just let it. You just went right into a drill.
We disked everything down and went right in and drilled it.
And your soil test said that it would come out like this. I mean, gee.
It's Mills River. If you know what you're, when you're looking for property in Mills River, if you know what floods and what doesn't flood, if you know what's been taken care of in a certain way, you know where you're looking. And we worked on this property purchase for better part of a year.
And remember we told you about that soil web on your iPhone? It will tell you if that soil has been flooded. It's the type of soil types. It tells you all that on that web, soil web app. It comes from our agency. It's the soil survey. So if you get that app, it'll tell you what the soil type, what's the hydrologic unit here, if it's used to flooding like you talk about, what's the depths of the soil. Very cool app.
The way that we chose this property was, we got word of mouth from a couple of generations prior to me, which helps always. But what we really did was, we had 2 hurricanes in 2005, Francis and Ivan. They were back to back. They were in the fall of the year. They put a lot of rain down. What we did was, while everything was raining and flooding, myself, my dad, a couple of other large conventional guys, we just got in the truck and went and rode. Saw what flooded and what didn't flood. These fields, everything we own right here, the worst thing that's ever going to happen out here, unless if we get something worse than 2 hurricanes 3 weeks apart, about maybe 30, 40 feet off the river bank, you're going to be okay. You might lose a little bit, but you're going to be okay. And unless if we have 2 hurricanes back to back, it's never going to come out. It just doesn't come out. It comes out way down low in the valley below the Ingalls where we were.
How much acreage is here?
There's 49 acres total. There's 34 acres of bottomland and 15 acres of upland.
So, is there an explanation of why it did so well? Is it in the mix? It is in the
seeding rate.
The seeding rate.
Seeding rate.
We seeded heavy, but I think that just the explanation really is just Mills River just got good ground, and if you're on the right ground, you're not in too much clay, you're not in too much sand. It just has a really nice mix of soil, and I had all the confidence in the world prior to us owning this property that we could do anything we want to do out here.
And another thing, never forget the power of diversity and synergy.
Yes.
Nature is diverse, you see synergistic. That's what we did here. Don't ever underestimate her power. I think we way underestimate that.
Yeah. I certainly looked around and saw some of the diversity coming up better than others initially, but as soon as we got into spring, everything came up that we planted. I'd say we have 100% stand, really.
Yeah. And you'll drill for the summer cover crop? Is that how you do it?
We're gonna drill right into this.
How long will you let this lay before you drill?
2 weeks, maybe 3. This has got to be brown.
This one, there's a reason for this one being brown, because the vetch is really thick, and you're gonna get it tied up in the equipment. So we're gonna want this brittle. Okay? It's completely opposite we told you the other one.
Right. Well, this vetch is adding us a lot of nitrogen. It's viney, and it'll just give you a lot of trouble if you don't let it run its course prior to trying to drill it.
But my mix that I have very little vetch in it. I'll do it green.
Yeah.
This one you won't. And Dave's got a lot of experience. He'll save you a lot of headaches.
Yeah. We went at approximately twice the recommended seeding rate for a number of reasons, but mainly we're trying to revamp this soil. We're trying to fix this ground so to speak. And at the same time, we're trying to drown out any weeds that we don't want. Choke them out, get them out of the way, make them not be part of our program. It doesn't work 100%, as you can see right there.
But look at how much the covers suppress the weeds.
Tremendously.
Nature is not a nudist. It wants to be covered. Yep. Always remember the powers of the covers. Go ahead and roll this, and then we're going to dig in the field. Sure. You're going to see how beautiful.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
I'll stand on this driveway.
Let's stand this right here.
What?
So, you think one pass will kill it right now?
You'll know in a day or two.
Say it again,
I said, do you think one pass will kill it?
Yes, one pass should kill it. You should be able to see it turning blue tomorrow or the next day, and that'll tell you whether it's going to die. If it stays dark green, it won't.
And then we'll come back and hit it again if that's the case, you know?
Yeah. But it should take it out. You can see purple bloom in the vetch. The rye is blooming. What you want to do if you got close to that in disregard to listen to the tractor, you could hear that crop popping and cracking like popcorn. That's when it's ideal to roll. When you hear that popping and cracking like popcorn popping, you know.
It gets sticky when it's mature.
Yeah, right. Well, the stems gets hollow.
Yeah, they get hollow, and so that's why it's popping.
And that's the best compost material.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, look at this. So my other question is, how quick can we get that cover crop seed here?
Tuesday or Wednesday.
All right, well, let's get that set up.
Yeah.
You know, I'll get on the phone with my nonprofit, make sure the money's lined up, and we'll just go for it. You know, we want to get it in, get it established, you know. I'd like to get your and Ray's opinion about whether or not we should change the mix for the mugwort suppression, or should we just go with the same diversity?
I'd use the same diversity because we got big, tall sorghum stand and pearl millet. I think it'll crowd it out.
You gonna do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Going over there next.
Pardon?
We're going back there next.
If we have time, we sure should. Yeah.
Garden area, which the lady before me only lived there a year, but before that had been a riding area. So it had been gravel and mushed flat. And then she actually had planted some cover crops and was trying to restore it, but she was only there for a year.
You know, 45-foot sprayer, you probably spend about the same amount. A small boom sprayer, 3-point. Yeah, but there's a lot less along with it.
Yeah,
but let's make it very clear.
Yeah, that's not coming back.
Yeah.
So, but we had to start somewhere, you know.
Yeah. No problem.
So we're going to look at the soil, and then if we have time, I'd like to go back and look at the mugwort for a minute too. So we basically got a half an hour to look at stuff, talk about it, and get back to the meal. So it's going to happen now.
Where's Ray? Come on.
Hey, Ray.
Yes, sir.
Here.
Yeah, come and look at this. I want you to notice this soil. Now, what do you notice on the other one that we just saw on the cover crop? You guys see anything? Remember all those spheres we were talking about?
That's cottage cheese, right?
Ah, you notice it doesn't have very much? You notice that?
Oh, I noticed it.
You noticed it right away, didn't you? Look at it. It's starting to aggregate, look. It's starting, but it was not nearly like the other one. This is its first year of reparation. Look at this. Look at the nodules. See those nodules right there? Squeeze that, and they should be pink inside. See the aggregation is starting to happen? That is by the covers. But notice the lower layers. There is no cottage cheese. It's homogeneous. Look at that. It has been brutalized.
Hammered.
Big time.
Yeah.
But look at the cover. Now look at my rhizosis, my detritus starting to happen. I'm starting to get some of these spheres, and we actually saw one earthworm, which is exciting. You guys, that's a keystone organism. I know we get all like one earthworm. Oh yeah. We saw that, didn't we, Dave?
Yeah. If you look at this, by not having the crack, you know, there's no way the water can infiltrate down through that. You know, but he's coming. You know, he's starting to get. What we like to see is, you know, we like to see these. Look at this root, how much dirt it's holding.
Yeah, that's that aggregates. Look at that.
See, it's breaking it down.
That's biology. Bacteria, fungus, all those root exudates. They do that. They do the aggregation.
This is a hairy vetch plant.
See that?
You know.
See how it's starting to dangle? See that dangling? So what we want to do is the next time we come out here, Pat, about 2 or 3 years of these covers and doing the right farming, it's going to, just so it's not, it's going to look very different.
It will.
It will.
It will.
Oh,
See,
well, I'm
the
very
fact
confident.
is, you know, this is a great farm, and I'm glad they're going to really try to build the soil because I'm hoping they have a soil sample before they started.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Oh, good.
We did the test with you. We did the.
Good. Okay, good. Yeah, we got that.
So we should, after they've rolled this, we should pull another one and send it down to Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then after, by going back in here with the summer mix, which has actually given us 2 years of history in 1 year, then the diversity is really going to change by fall.
How will it be 2 years history?
Because usually you just do one cover crop a year.
One cover crop a year.
We're skipping crop season and doing cover crops instead.
We're doing cover crops.
So think about what we're doing here. We are putting 5 or 6 rotations in one period of time. We're going to do that again now with the summer. That's going to be another 5, 7, 8 species. Yeah. And then we're going to come in for the last winter cover crop mix, and then we're going to start going into a rotation.
We won't do all of it either. I mean, some of this will be getting cover crop in next year.
Yeah.
We're not going to put all 30 acres in 1 year.
Oh, great.
You know?
I
We'll
mean,
always have a section
can
of
you
cover
imagine
crop.
if we had animals here?
Oh, I can.
Oh my
I
goodness.
can. I can definitely imagine having animals.
So
here,
you didn't have to lose money.
You could put 300 stalkers in here for like 65 days.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
And eat all this out?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
How do you feel about that?
Well, they wouldn't eat it all out, right?
Well, you take it.
You only take half of it.
You only take half, but there you could put 300 animals in this field.
On half of it?
Oh, no, you're going to group them up.
blocks.
You're going to group them tight.
1 acre blocks.
You're going to group them up 1 acre blocks.
You can regulate how much they graze versus how much they trample.
Yes.
Right.
It's all a relationship of animal units, space, and time.
Got it.
Yep.
So you're going to make sure they only take half.
Right.
Grazers are going to want to graze this to the ground. No.
Okay.
You
So,
move 'em.
in your estimation, in restoring this land, would you see this for a summer crop now, or would you graze this now?
I'd have grazed it.
I would have grazed it because you would have made money. Plus, you plant the cool season mix, you would have been beautiful. Because remember, a cow is like a giant soil vat. They got protozoa, they got all kinds of things. The manure, you cannot beat manure and urine. And then that helps the cool season, the warm season. So you would have made money, and you wouldn't have lost. You would have already paid for. You would have paid for this mix easy.
But as you graze it, you would then be coming behind and put the summer cover crop
You got
in.
it.
Yeah.
We're just not
When you-
set up infrastructure-wise
Right.
for that.
Yeah.
Right. If there was a fence here,
Yeah.
and they could graze this in 1 or 2 acre grid
Yeah.
blocks,
Yeah.
then every time they moved, they would put their summer mix in. Or maybe what they do is broadcast their summer mix, leave
And
the
then
cows
graze it.
there,
Broadcast
then leave the cows there another 4 hours.
They grind it in.
And let it
Let it
grind it
trample
in.
in.
That way,
4 hours?
they'll do it in a 2 acre block.
Move them and move them.
So you got to remember, we're running now 200 cows. Say a cow weighs 1,000 acres. I mean 1,000 pounds. 1,000 acres. A
really
thousand.
heavy cow.
1,000 pounds a cow.
One cow.
So you got 200 cows. This will be mob grazed. You can run 200 cows in an acre block, and you'll be moving them on
What
daily.
about other animals?
Sheep,
Goats,
pigs, goats,
Chickens.
chickens.
They won't eat all this.
They won't eat all
You
this.
couldn't buy enough chickens to put out.
Yeah.
They'd be a little overwhelmed, and you could lose them in here.
Yeah.
Getting into some management stuff there.
Right.
Getting into some management issues.
Yes.
So with animals, it's the same principle.
Now, if you wanted to, you could use the 2 acre
diversity.
grids with the cows, then follow it up with sheep, then make the seeding.
But chickens go over it and then see.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh
Sheep will
yeah.
take it down a little further. Is that
Yeah.
what you're thinking?
Right.
Sheep, goats, and those mix. It's
And then
But imagine,
the pigs would
imagine if we had 200 stalkers here weighing 500 pounds. They were here for 60 days. They put on 3 pounds a day.
Oh.
Oh yeah, do the math.
Do the math.
And doing 3.
That's 180 pounds per calf.
Yeah.
Times 200. That's 36,000, and they're paying $1 a pound.
So you make $36,000.
You make $36,000 rather than rolling down here.
Yeah, it's even more now. It's a couple of $2 or $3 a pound.
Right. You know, I'm just using
Yeah.
easy math.
Easy
No,
math.
well, for pasture-raised beef, it would be a
Oh
lot different.
yeah.
Well, pasture-raised beef would be a whole different. But I'm just saying, you know,
Yeah.
we got guys in Virginia that want us to do this, and they'll pay us $1 a pound.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever weight we put on them.
Oh, pigs.
But see, no, but pigs are I mean, they're the rototillers. You're talking about minerals.
No, they will not root in here.
So yeah, but
A pig will not root in here.
Why?
you know why?
Because he's got the grass. He will not
And
root.
yeah, you're gonna move them
You're moving them.
because you're not gonna leave them there for a long time because they will tear it up.
Yes,
They're
they
going to go
will.
after lagoons, basically.
Yeah, they're gonna feed really well here.
Yeah.
Management
You just
again.
move them before they get.
Like Rocco said, you got to manage.
They're going to keep going after that salad bar. You know, they're going to go
That's
for
the
that lush
crimson
stuff,
clover.
and then by the time they're ready to start digging, you
They
move.
are
them.
beautiful.
Yeah, because you got to remember, you're gonna move the pigs just like you're gonna move them, because they will tear up soil.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
big
yeah.
time.
I went to the NC State at the university. They had pigs there, and they had these huge ruts.
Yeah.
She kept them there for many days, and they were hungry.
Yeah.
They're going to destroy, and they get bored. But you go them through this, like Dave was saying, you're not going to have an issue.
With this veg and clover and peas, the only thing a pig's going to do out here is gain weight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Eat and poop.
I know it's hard to say, but
So they're not interested in the
a 1
grass.
acre block.
They
we're
want the
talking
lagoons.
within a couple of days, you'd be
Yeah,
moving
got it,
them.
got it,
Yeah,
got
but
it.
here's what you do. The way you calculate this, you'll get a ring, and you'll clip it. So if you want to figure how many grazing days you have, okay, 80% of this is water.
Yes.
So you're going to subtract that. You're going to want dry matter. Say a cow will eat 35 to 40 pounds of dry matter per day. So you throw your calculation, you do some basic arithmetic, then you can figure how many grazing days you have out here. And they say, okay, I'm only going to take half. Remember what I told you, half?
Right.
So you're going to cut that number in half, and then you're going to do your calculations. So here's where you go to do that. Just type, do grazing, calculate grazing days.
Right.
Any university will have it. You'll see this little pamphlet. Just follow the basic math. But you can get what I would do here is bring one of our, we got 2 grazing specialists at the tech center. They'll come here for free, feed them, bring them here, and we can have a whole day on grazing, how to calculate and how to do that.
Let's do it next year.
You
want to tell people real quick that we have a big 3-day, 8-hour-a-day workshop with Johann Zeitzman, who is an ultra-high density grazing expert.
Yeah, bring him here.
24 hours of footage online. And
Does he go through the measuring and
he
cutting
goes
and
through
clipping?
every detail you can imagine.
Oh, beautiful.
And then
It's already
we have
online.
Ray,
And we're
with your
bringing-
cover crop mix that you recommended for our Florida Living Web
Yeah.
farm, we've got a full video called Regenerative Ranching, and it shows
Oh,
everything they're
great.
talking about.
Excellent.
So check
Excellent.
it
It's already
out.
online.
We're also bringing Jimmy Elzondo out this year to talk about that stuff at the other farm, but we could also talk about this one.
And then we're going to try and bring Gabe here next year. If we can get him here, he's one of the most sought-off speakers after Dave Brandt. He's like, there's Dave, there's Gabe, and then, well, there's the rest of us. Well, what can we say? So, but we need to bring him out here, because once you get to hear him, then you'll bring in the grazing, the cropping, and all the enterprises that you need to learn about. So Pat's going to try and bring him in.
Yeah, I mean, long term, and we go back and forth. Oh, it's because right now there's no way to do animals here, which is at the
Right,
electric.
right.
So, oh, we can't do it. Maybe we'll just do chickens. It's like, no, we will. I don't know when, but we will eventually get to where we'll have animals here and we'll be incorporating it.
Yeah.
Because that's the future of farming.
Right.
That's what we have to do.
Yes.
You know.
We
And you know, if
want,
you're estimating the biomass out here now, I'd guess there's 28,000 pounds per acre dry biomass. You know,
So-
that's 14 ton of hay.
so the thing about it is, we want our farms to run on new sunlight, not ancient sunlight. Ancient sunlight is diesel. So all the inputs that we've talked about, that's what's making us go broke. We want to run on new sunlight. Okay? So I want you to walk away with that. Another book you guys need to get is a book called Agroecology by Dr. David Gleasman. Talks about all those principles and learn how. You need to understand what's going on in these systems so you can understand the flow of energy. Okay? Dr. David Gleasman. Great book on agroecology.
And you are going to get your whole list on the website.
Yeah,
for-
I'll give him the list of the books, and then you'll have all those
Post
reading.
it, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
And
All
he's
right, so
ready.
Would you like to hear anything from a retired conventional farmer?
Yeah.
I am Marshall Hagan, the old guy. I used to grow 4,000 acres of fruits and veg in 4 states. Had 3,500 plus employees. Annual gross $450 million a year. I went broke in 2001.
Yeah.
From the input?
The last 7 words of a dying business, that's the way we've always done it. And I'm here to tell you folks,
This is a new wave.
this is so exciting to me. I only wish I was 20 or 30 years younger.
Me too.
Hey, me too.
Thanks for sharing. That's awesome. Thank
I'm gonna
you.
tell you, man, this is good stuff.
That goes on YouTube. Thank you for sharing that. That's really important.
That's powerful.
How about let's go eat, guys? Let's go to Mugwort.
Yeah,
Let's
we
go.
have
Let's
some
go.
more.
The mugwort.
Mark, can you
What we're doing there? Mark will do the experiment.
And then
David Brandt was thinking we should go with that.
Flowers?
ask that question and any questions you have about it, let's just have it. It's a perfect thing to talk about, right? That's what we want to do on this kind of video, you know? Totally show the process. Yeah, I wish you could have been here. It's so much fun.
While we were looking at, or they were talking about nodulation and inoculation in there, is that if you have inoculated in recent years, you can be safe, and that there's like a lot of research that suggests that the native rhizobia actually take over nodulation and fixation and stuff later.
Once the diversity is getting built up.
Yeah, so years down the road, you might see nitrogen fixation dominated by native species instead of the ones you inoculate, which is another reason to promote diversity.
That'd be a fun discussion to have. I don't know if we have time right now.
Yeah,
I'd love to cover it.
Just throwing it out there for something to keep in mind.
Got it right now.
Future. That's good.
So they would be no issue.
Put that on the pasture.
Better you put it on your pasture. But if
Do you want to oversee the
So maybe I'll describe the mugwort.
Sure.
No problem.
However you
And
want to
then
do it.
take over and
Yep.
do the rest of it, okay?
do well, because that's will do well. The crimson clover, you just try it and it'll fall into the cracks and it'll come up.
Okay, so the reason why we came out here is we're doing a major experiment. Mark Dempsey here is going to be our scientist. He's actually keep all the records and stuff. And he was integral in designing it. We got a question for David Brandt. Is he here?
Gone back to Ohio.
Anytime you get around equipment, he's gone.
Okay.
He's good at it too.
Can you give him a call and ask him, because I'd like to do that, ask him that question out, if he's willing to come. Okay, so the reason why we're doing this is anybody know this plant? This is mugwort. Mugwort is one of the harder perennial weeds to get rid of. It might be the hardest. A piece of root that big, if you don't take care of it, could have a whole field infected in not many years at all. You know, every little piece you break off reproduces. You cannot dig it out. You can't really till it out unless you want to kill your soil. It's incredibly invasive, incredibly persistent. It was higher than a tractor last year. And it's all on the road here. We made a huge mistake by not putting the cover crop on the road too. I'm going to let Mark describe the different trials we're going to try to see organic ways to control it. We're actually going to use some herbicides so we can compare. That's the only time we'll probably ever use herbicides, but we want to be able to say, yes, the herbicides did this, maybe they were even the most effective, but what about the soil damage? What about the ecological questions? We can't do that comparison without using them. So that's why we're doing it.
And we're going to use it to see, we're going to do the PLFA, so food web analysis, to see if it suppressed some of the biology. So we want to see all these treatments. I'm hoping we can just do it with covers, right, Pat?
I'm hoping we can roll and plant through it. That's going to be our ideal. It doesn't even have to be the best way. If it's close to the best way, then the improving of the soil will make it the most cost-effective way to do it. I'm going to let you take over, Mark. Just go ahead and describe that.
Thanks, Pat. So my name's Mark Dempsey. I'm a researcher. I moved here recently from Penn State. Up at Penn State I was working in weed science research and also, I can't see you guys, and also in cover crop research. So the research that we were focusing on is trying to control weeds with cover crops and the whole related field of soil fertility and soil management and so forth. So I was happy to help out with this project and see if we could design an experiment that tackles mugwort control but also tries to address soil health and also maybe like human and environmental health more generally with the concerns about herbicide use and stuff like that. So if you were to take a step back and think about how one and maybe a conventional ag would deal with a persistent weed like mugwort, it would probably be to put down herbicide and or till very aggressively, because a weed like this requires aggressive treatment. You know, you're not going to be able to eradicate it without that. And if you let it go, it just will grow right back within a few years, and you're right back where you started. You've wasted that extra money you put in up front. So if those are the conventional approaches, we wanted to kind of plan around that to see what we could do that would be different. So the basic premise of this whole study is to use cover crops to suppress and outcompete mugwort in combination with herbicide, with tillage, with mowing, and then just suppression and competition all on its own. And so what we have here is so there are 10 total treatments. It's replicated 3 times. And so starting from here at this flag stake down to the next flag stake are the 10 in the first rep. And these first 4 are all chemical control. And so what we're going to try to do is kill the herbicide, ding the mugwort with an herbicide, kill the cover crop and ding the mugwort with an herbicide, and then plant a summer smother crop into that. The summer smother crop is going to go everywhere here in this field. It's just a matter of how we deal with the cover crop and try to ding the mugwort up front. And so in this first block, we're going to be doing like a glyphosate and dicamba or 2,4-D combination of herbicides. And then in the next one, we're going to be doing an organic herbicide. Both full rates, just see how they turn out, see if we can ding the mugwort. In all of these plots, we're going to be evaluating how well we kill the cover crop, how well the mugwort does, and we're also going to be evaluating soil health and some microbiological aspects. PLFAs is a new one to me, but that sounds like a great idea.
Phospholipid fatty acid?
Yeah. We can do that.
Mark, are you going to do tillage too?
Yes.
Okay.
That's one of the treatments down there. So the microbial method that we are planning to use up front is just counting fungi under a scope, which is like the most direct way of quantifying them, but there are other ways, basically using biomarkers, that you can quantify fungi and a lot of other microbial groups. And so the next 2 plots after these 2 full rate herbicide ones are going to be a fractional rate herbicide, where we're going to try to reduce the amount of herbicide that we use by including a proprietary product in the blend, with the hope that we can have it be as successful. It's just a test. And then beyond that is, let's see, tillage. And so we're going to have 2 plots where we till intensively or we till lightly. And then the next ones after that are going to be mowing, right? So we think that if we continually put down a cover crop and then mow it, we can outcompete the mugwort. And then the split there is that we're going to have annual cover crops versus a perennial forage. And just because probably the commonest way an organic farmer would deal with this is by putting it into pasture, or excuse me, into hay, where you're pulling out hay every year and you're making frequent cuttings with the hope that you can outcompete the mugwort eventually over time. That's a longer process.
They would hay it or they would till it in, right? Yeah, or
a combination over time.
They might also just feed it, right? Let cows or something come in and feed on it instead?
Sure, people might graze that.
Yeah, another way is another's a grazing thing.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
But it gets more complex.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about the crimping that they were doing over there?
The final 2 treatments are going to be just roller crimped and then planted into that. And so what we're thinking is that with a cover crop like this, we might be able to suppress it with just suppression and without chemical or physical control methods, right? So we're going to just roll everything down, plant into that, and then try to outcompete it with the next crop.
We're definitely pulling for that method. That's the best method environmentally. You know, that's the method we hope is the best.
It's the lowest cost method too.
Yeah.
Over the long term. And the roller is a great piece of equipment. It's a great investment. So that's the basis of the experiment. I guess we did have a few questions we wanted to ask Ray and to Gabe. I mean, to Dave.
Is he coming?
No, he's
okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Then I guess we'll just say we had thought that we were just going to go with Sudex and probably we said maybe 25% crotalaria. Sun hemp, right? Okay. Yeah, that's what we thought we were going to do. We thought maybe less diversity would be, denser would be harder on the mugwort. But then Dave said he thought that the mix that you all just designed would smother it really well. So I just wanted to have him here and then get Mark to ask him the questions. That's why we can do it back at the place too. He doesn't have to be looking at it,
The nice thing about having a mix is that they'll all bring different chemical messengers into the system, but it complicates we don't know who's going to do what.
Right.
And I don't know I don't even know if our science is that far ahead.
Yeah.
We can just see what the impact that you'll see is, okay? Because you're going to count how many mugwort you have per plot, and that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
I applaud you. Thank you for helping us.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah. This is a several-year project?
Yeah,
it's a several-year project?
Yeah.
2 years?
Project. 2 years, yeah. If it had to go longer, we probably could. When you're leaving, just note that the mugwort by the road is probably the weakest because it gets driven on and all that. Imagine that it would have been much thicker in there, and yet right now it's totally suppressed. It's not dead, it's waiting to pop again, but it's totally suppressed,
But one of the things you have to realize about weed species, the seed banks are there. Arthropods and all these little critters that we talked about, millipedes, all that, will eat weed seed. The fungus also will degrade weed seed. So, but once you start bringing a healthy soil ecosystem, it'll reach an equilibrium that'll help suppress some of these weeds. Will we ever get rid of completely weed seeds? No. But the best way is putting living covers. So learning how the ecology of the weed seeds, and that's why we have Mark here to help us out, because he understands some of that. And so using all these tools, but if we can use ecological means before we use physical and chemical and those means, we're better off. Trying to understand the system better than just trying to force it. So that's our thought process.
So that's it. And I'm thinking that what we learn here will be not exactly, but pretty broadly applicable to other things like Johnson grass and things like that too. Same kind of concept,
So the goal is to have a high quality educational product that we can put out there for people who are struggling with this kind of weed or similar weeds and especially in this area, that might be most applicable. See how to deal with them in the best way.
Yeah, because Johnson grass is another brutal one.
Oh yeah.
It's hard until it just spreads it around. But if you can graze it hard, it's a fantastic grazing. It's great grass for grazing.
Yeah.
So using the right biological tools to suppress it is always better if we can learn how to use that.
Okay.
What's the difference between weed seed and cover crop seed?
The weed seeds, okay, a lot of these, and Mark, you jump in because you're the weed scientist, a lot of the weed seed plants are designed to do, all of them have purpose and design. Remember I was telling you the majority of these plants will put 40 to 60% of their energy into root exudates. I want to feed biology.
Yeah.
Weeds will probably leak about 20% They put their into seed head.
Got it.
They are secondary successional plants. Their design is to cover, and they'll also tell us, do you have a deficiency in calcium? Do you have a deficiency in this? They're indicator species. But nature wants to cover itself because you do a lot of disturbance it doesn't want. So it's a mechanism, what they use. They'll put a lot of their end product into seed head.
Okay.
And other things you want to add to that?
I guess what exactly do you mean by how are the seeds different? Do you mean the crops?
No, you want to get rid of this plant because it's a weed, but you want to keep this plant because it's a cover crop.
Well,
and I mean, you were saying there was so much mugwort here that it was covering things.
Sure. So what we're planning to do is so the seed thing is a little bit different with mugwort because it spreads by its rhizome.
Rhizome, yeah.
But I mean, we can easily control the cover crop. It rarely becomes weedy to affect our cash crops. The weedy species are just...
Yeah. The mugwort will put you out of business, It'll just overrun your crop, and outcompete it. But it's interesting because I pulled up some for Ray. Hadn't been familiar with it, and we looked at what I pulled up, and he said, "What a great aggregator!"
Yeah, look at the aggregates.
So it's not hurting the soil. There's nothing bad about mugwort. It's got tons of great uses. It just doesn't work for how we want to farm here, So we want to control that. We're humans, right? We want to control the plants we have here for our purposes.
And we got to make a living.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we still got to make a living. I tell you, being in the Peace Corps a couple of years, poor people don't take care of the land very well. It costs money to keep and restore the land. So we got to be able to, I want you guys to make a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with that. But we got to do it in a way that's responsible. Another thing about weeds that we've noticed, they're secondary successional plants. A lot of them like bacteria dominant soils. A lot of disturbance, a lot of tillage. They're the first ones, the first invaders to come in. So if you're doing a lot of physical disturbance, what we want to do is lessen the disturbance, then the soil biology changes, because the plant community and the soil biology are very connected. In fact, in the science literature, we don't know who controls what. It's that complex. So if we shift the biology to more fungal, the plant community is going to shift.
So,
let's go eat.
Let's go eat, absolutely. We got 6 minutes to get back there. We can do it.
We can do it. But what I don't appreciate, I said, disprove us. Go get the equipment and disprove us. We'll even help you help you get a CIG grant. But don't sit there and diss us, and you've done nothing. Now that's not appreciable at all.
That would be really valuable research.
Absolutely.
Just to have somebody try to disprove that.
We want you to disprove it. Good science will stand under scrutiny. And it should be able to work everywhere.
I mean, just settle the matter.
Yeah. And?
It's okay. 3 seconds.
Hey, you got it perfectly.
This is cucumber.
Look. Mark, people are arguing. See, in my mind, Rome is burning. And we're worried about the violin. If it has 3 strings, 5 strings, really?
Okay.
Right. Come on. They haven't driven the whole country like I have. I drive it, I fly it. It's a mess. And let's be realistic.
My very best friend. Tony Carlin.
Nice to meet you, Tony.
You can grow 4,000 acres of hard corn.
All right.
And he's...
All right.
So.
Good to have you here. I'm enjoying the meal.
Get something to eat,
See, Mark, if you go look at the country where it's at, and we've been doing this for 75 years. Our agency's been doing this for 75 years. And we still have conservation.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
And we still having Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
Come on. I almost want to blow a blood up with someone when they say, we got to study it more. Have you ever Googled organic matter? Google it. And how many millions of papers have come out? I can't even get people to cover the darn soil. Really? If I had to do one conservation practice, cover the soil.
They don't want to acknowledge something, they'll say, let's study it.
Here, you can have this one if you'd like.
No, I just wanted to.
I like when you kid with me.
Okay.
It's a standard, I guarantee it.
I got like 2 minutes and I'm gonna go. I'm running late.
I can. What are you gonna get offended? I don't get offended that easy.
Out of town guests in town and.
Email me and remind me.
Okay, I'm gonna sit in this chair.
I'll connect you with Dr. Haney.
That'd be great.
He's a friend of mine.
That'd be great.
He works for ARS USDA in Texas.
In Texas.
And he'll run the soil analysis for free.
Great.
The only ones you're gonna have to pay for is the PLFA and the soil web.
Yeah. We haven't talked about PLFA. That would be really cool. We can talk more about that.
Because if we're going to bother to use that poison, I want people to see the reasons why we shouldn't use it.
Yeah. I actually don't know if PLFA would pick that up. It's a fairly coarse microbiological test. Probably like 20 variables. But,
you don't think that the salts from those herbicides aren't going to...
You know where we picked it up?
I think that it could...
You know where we picked
it could have an effect. I don't know if that would measure it well.
You know where we picked it up? Dr. Haney did a test on Roundup.
I'm going to go find a sink to put this
It wasn't
in.
actually
And then I'll be back.
You know what it was?
Be right back.
And then they went,
heard that surfactant.
yeah, and then Monsanto never wants to say anything about the surfactant.
That's probably what's an endocrine disruptor too. It's probably not the salts. It's probably the.
And it's interesting. We picked it up.
the Haiti test did pick up the respiration going down. So if we pick it up, we'll be able to pick it up from there. But the soil samples had to be done at the same time.
We'll do them exactly as they tell us how to do them.
And you might not pick up the results of the herbicide until about 10 days later. So you want to do the sample right before and after again.
We'll do it.
I think the course worked out.
It's a great class. You guys did a great job.
I'm glad you liked it.
Really wonderful job. Mark was saying how good it was. How good
Hey, Meredith, did you do the pickling?
It's
awesome.
There's a serious critic there.
Do you grow
he knows a whole lot of stuff.
these specifically for
Mark is the guy we just talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Give the plants a shot.
He just wrote back with me and saying it was a great course. They might talk to you.
Well, I think you're very blessed to have somebody to help you here. And we can set a replica.
Yeah, pickled radishes and turnips.
Like I said, they gave one of the better workshops I've been to in a long time.
We have a
And David was in complete agreement with my reductionist science complaint.
Oh, it is.
Totally gets it, you know?
What's nice to have a researcher that sees the whole ecology.
Yep.
That's a rare.
Yeah, it's very rare.
And I'm excited about that.
Yep.
I hate to see David. I mean, they could have ate me there.
I know, I wish they would have stuck around. So we could have put him up again if they could have.
He's jumping to go.
Yeah.
He's got a farm tomorrow.
Yeah,
he took his computer? Yeah.
Oh, he'll send you the, we can do the transfer big file.
Where did you get sick with them?
Because that was great. That was really good. I built, I can well,
Oh, there he is. Jay, can you, oh, you ready? How come you're not gonna, how come you never send it before you get started? It's already done. The bread's done.
I'll grab it and take it.
Yeah, fairly easy road. Yeah.
He wants you, can you send him a transfer file? Like your PowerPoint, would you?
Yes.
Well, I have a flash drive.
Oh, okay.
Well, we're already packed up. We're hitting the road, so I will get it to Pat, and he can forward it to you. Okay?
What I'll do is I'll get the address.
Yeah, you can transfer it right now.
You better send it to him and send it to me.
Yeah, you can transfer.
Pat's got enough to do.
I'm computer trained.
Gotcha.
But I'll be glad to forward the address.
Okay. So I'm going to leave you a box of those cover crop mixes. They're $7.
Okay.
All right. So now, all you need to do is let me know what you have sold, and I'll send you an invoice.
Okay. Yep.
So I've got I got a list of what I left it, so I know.
Okay.
So you'll get, because we have a wholesale price, so we'll only charge you wholesale. So our retail price is about $7.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Oh, you said you already packed up.
Yeah. The main reason I want to do is I know people are looking for that kind of stuff, so it's great to get there. Great. I'm really glad you made it out, Mark.
It was great. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
You, thank you for coming.
Right there. I took it.
Thank you, sir.
It's not mine.
Hey,
That's Ray's.
working with you.
That's Ray's computer. Yeah.
Okay. Email me.
So my information
Just
is on the
Google
computer
Ray
I packed.
So that's what we need to get. Come up. Email comes up.
Gotcha.
Remind me, I'm gonna get you hooked up with Dr. Haney, okay?
Okay.
And I'll get you information from the LFA.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, great.
That sounds good. See you guys. See you, Dave. See you, man.
Thanks, Ray. Hoping to see you later.
Thank you, Jay. You were awesome, of course.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed it all. Yes. Hope to see you again soon. All right.
Thanks for filming.
So Dr. Lang, if I gathered it correctly, she said that you could plant directly into cover crops in certain situations.
You can plant directly into it?
Yeah, that's what I gathered. Was
Absolutely.
You could
That's what we were talking about, called green planting.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm really interested in. Because we got clover, you know, and a few other kinds in our garden, and we want to plant tomatoes. And it's like, you know, okay, we want to knock it down, right, so that it's not tall, but we don't want to kill it. We want it to come back. We want it to get established. And we got a bunch of these mustard greens that came out of our compost from our last house, and we're just going to take those out. You know,
I wouldn't take them up. Just cut them down.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, don't pull them out though, because you leave the roots in, just let it lay there and plant through it.
See, I was thinking if you pull something up by the root and it leaves this hole, isn't that a good thing? In a different aspect of what you're trying to get out of it?
Yeah, the thing is that it's quite different leaving a hole versus mechanical tillage. Mechanical tillage actually stimulates oxygen into the system in a large amount and wakes up these
You got a feeding frenzy.
Yeah, you wake up these coprotrophic bacteria. These are strategies. Very different. When you run a rototiller or a disc, You smash aggregates, you serve with a hyphae, you create a different system. What you're doing biological means. It's a non-issue.
But don't you think I think it'd be less work, and I suspect even be better for the soil rather than pulling it up, which is disturbance, just cutting it off and let the roots rot in there.
That's what I was thinking. So you get the residue down there already. It doesn't have to fall in the hole.
Well, but don't make the only hole you make is to put your plant in. Don't bother to pull the stuff out.
Well, say I plant a tomato and I just part.
Yeah, that's right. That's the hole you make. You got to do that. We'll never get away
with the
from
planting
that.
mix. With the planting mix, because it's not 3-year-old cover crop soil. It's just a yard. First year. And so I'm considering that with the chickens and everything that's been on there, I don't want to put the chickens back because that'll be fresh poop, and that's only okay if it's really just it stays on the surface and it's not near the tomatoes. But as far as cutting the cover crop, I found better results when I have mulched the cover crop around my plant without cutting it, because it's like, you know, when you cut your hair, it sticks up straight and it sticks up through the mulch and it keeps living. But if it's long, it can mat from weight. What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. That's why you do the roll. You know, you get a better kill rolling than trying to. Even if you till it under the wrong time of year, you can't kill it. You know.
Now, what are worms eating? Do worms eat composting material?
Worms eat microbes.
They eat the protozoa. They're like little vacuum cleaners.
They were way too big to know what they're eating. Like, how can they find a protozoa?
Oh, they can. That's why they're like giant vacuum cleaners. Well, they got protozoas on there, and they'll eat bacteria.
My metaphor is they're like the whales going through the ocean pulling the krill.
Right, exactly. That's a great analogy. Excellent analogy.
Yeah.
Very good.
They pick up those krill. You know how they use like those fins, and they'll pick up these little tiny fish. That look like whales. Earthworms are very similar. They'll pick up those grains, and they'll poop out, and they'll pick up the bacteria and the protozoa.
Where are you going to find worms? Where are they prolific?
They're there. Build it, they will come. They're there.
Create the conditions. That's
The conditions in the soil, or do you need some kind of composting situation? Do they like to be in compost?
That's different worms.
Different worms.
Yeah. And the thing about it is they're already there.
Which kind do I want?
Well, you get Lumbrice, what do you call it, the Latin name? Terestius, the big earthworm. You want them there.
The nightcrawler kind.
Night crawlers will be there. The thing is, all you gotta do is feed them. Right now, a lawn situation is pretty sucky. You mow it all the time, short, it's hot.
I'll see you around.
It's compacted.
Walked on,
Walked on. It's just not much biology.
I don't think you don't. I think what he's trying to say is that you don't have to worry about
They'll come on their own.
You create the conditions, you'll get them.
They'll come on their own.
Like the dung beetle. But what I'm trying to do is accelerate the process in nature. So, for example,
you want to accelerate it? I'll give you I learned this from a biodynamic grower. The fastest way to get the soil so it is rocking incredibly is if you know somebody who mows lawns.
Let's see.
So you can get fresh grass clippings. You take food waste and put down about 1 inch, then you have food waste. Put 4 inches of fresh lawn clippings on top of it, and then 4 inches of dry ground on top of it.
Lasagna bed.
No, but it's got to be that formula.
Okay,
that
say it
specific
again.
formula.
So I got lots of grass. That's what I'm mainly using.
Okay, so put about 1 inch or 2 of food waste down. Not anaerobic food waste, but just fresh food waste, okay? Put that down, 4 inches of green grass, and then 4 inches of dry ground. So you create this thermal, because of the grass, it heats up, that stuff breaks down fast. The light comes to the soil so fast you wouldn't believe it.
So once I got the worms in there, they're going to go down and they're going to start aerating.
Yeah, you don't worry about the worms coming in. You just create these conditions.
They'll come.
And you're going to create incredible microbial diversity doing that, and then the worms will come in and follow.
There's little cocoons there. They go into estivation and they're waiting for the right conditions, like you're talking about. They'll come.
I taught this to Mike and what's her name? Milo Akers. What's her name? Lori. Mike and Lori. And they put one bean plant in that their daughter had started to dig in with us. That bean plant was enough to literally. Mike finally was willing to let Lori just temper what he was saying, but they both agreed 15 pounds of beans from that bean plant, not counting what they ate. One bean plant. One bean plant. They got 15 pounds of beans from one bean plant, not counting what they ate. Using this fertility system, because it makes the soil diverse. It's like it's putting everything we're doing on high speed. You got the readily available nutrients from that food waste, and then you have this thermal situation where it heats up. There's nothing you can do on a big scale. This is for small scale But what you're doing, you will ramp things up faster doing that. I've never seen, so I did it, the first time I did it, I got taught it by Bob Carnegie, this biodynamic grower. First time I did it, my kale, my collards, all those hardy crops died from the frost because they were way too lush. They grew way too fast. You know? It is the fastest way to kick the soil into high gear.
So what Pat is telling you is, we underestimate way the power of the biology and what they can do.
Yeah.
They do everything.
We do everything.
I was just asking Marshall's dad what he thinks about stakes versus strings versus burying the tomatoes. What do you think about burying the tomatoes as they grow and picking off the bottom leaves and burying those nodes as they grow so they don't get taller, they just get more root mass, and the bottom leaves are what blight first, so that's also preventing the blight because they get blighted first and the fresh growth isn't blighted.
Yeah, we do that. I mean, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to suspend it, though. You're not going to be able to bury it if it's not a stake. So
but if it's suspended and being buried, I got to move the whole suspension system down as they all run, right?
Yep.
That's work.
It's work, but you get a lot of production. That's what you do. You do that in greenhouses. That's what you do. That's how you get the maximum production out of a greenhouse. You know, same plant will be in there for 8 months, and that's why I said we bury the pukes like that. You know, you get massive production that way. You know?
I'll tell you this: when you're talking about tomatoes, late blight, early blight is easy to take care of. Late blight, it doesn't matter what you bury, it doesn't matter what you do. If there are spores, live spores in the air of late blight, excuse me, they're getting on that new growth. So while you're pushing those along, any of that new growth, even if you're harvesting that tomato, is still putting off new growth. That new growth is the most susceptible to getting those spores. I mean,
the new growth.
It often starts low.
You're seeing early blight
starts low. Late blight doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
It starts wherever it
can.
Thank you for coming tonight. Bye, Redmond. Thank you for coming.
The seeds out there,
they're for sale. Yeah, they're $7 a bag. Yeah. Well, he kind of explained it to me. I often let him leave them here and I'll sell them for him because I know people want them. You know, he had to go, but I know that people are going to wish they had an opportunity. So I'll have them. If you don't get them tonight, I'll have them until they sell out.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Quick observation. I noticed that like all around the table, like people like like Pat, they always wear blue for some reason. And like orchard specialists wear yellow, like Michael Phillips and Andrew Goodhart, they all wear yellow. And then like cover crop guys seem to wear red, including Mark. Mark was wearing red.
Oh, wasn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I think that was a coincidence.
It is. It is.
The truth is, I had a choice between
well, we're supposed to wear black,
a blue shirt and a gray and white striped shirt. I just happened to grab the blue shirt.
Right.
I mean, and I have something that was baggy.
50% chance I would have readily gone for the other one.
Yeah. My thing was baggy. I just don't like tight clothes. So I want baggy as possible. And what was clean?
Clean is a major piece.
Yeah.
That's a top priority, I think.
Not wrinkled as far as Diane's concerned.
Yeah.
I can get very wrinkled. You know?
My wife tries. My wife tries to make sure I don't go.
Yeah, you're a professional. You got to look professional. You know.
Yeah. I even wear my little government shirt.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming.
To which Meredith said when I told her, Diane said that she said, "Tell her it's way too late."
I saw Diane. She's here somewhere.
She just stopped by for a minute. I tried to get her to stay, but she set it back up north already.
And the bread was amazing.
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
You are a professional bread maker.
I was a professional bread maker.
Awesome.
I actually teach it too. So yeah.
Love bread.
Another career.
You know, too, I have a question for you, because, look, a lot of our bread, see, I can't believe that wheat of itself is bad. It's not. It's just how we process it, right?
Well, it's also, now they're all realizing that if you're not getting organic, it's all got Roundup in it.
Yeah.
Because they're hitting it with Roundup so that it dries faster, and of course it's systemic.
So you got your organic beer.
You're eating Roundup.